Now, President William Ruto is on the spot for what his critics have termed as blatant case of premature campaigns, dubbed countrywide development tours focusing on the opposition areas. But what has puzzled his critics is the president's car sunroof impromptu stops to sell his bottom-up economic agenda and appease his staff 17 months into his presidency. The opposition claims that President Ruto's action points to a man seeking Kenyans' validation and reparking his image. However, his lieutenants have supported his move, terming it as the best way to stay in touch with Kenyans. NTV's political affairs reporter Vincent Oduor interrogates.
Slightly over a year into his presidency, President William Ruto is a man on the spot for being a chief executive officer, always on the move, running his affairs literally in the field, hardly at State House or step foot at his Harambee House office.
Sawa sawa.
The president has resorted to countrywide tours fashioned as development tours, commissioning and launching projects, despite the visits being marinated with politics.
Mimi niwaulize, serikali ya Kenya ipange ajira ya vijana.
These regional trips have made the president get back on his car rooftops, addressing crowds as he did while serving as deputy president and the run-up to the 2022 presidential polls. A year into his presidency, Ruto had visited all the counties in Mount Kenya, Coast, Rift Valley, and some parts of Nyanza and Western. This month of February alone, so far President Ruto has visited 7 counties. These include Nakuru, Nyeri, Kiambu, Murang'a, Kakamega, Vihiga, and Bungoma.
Give us wisdom.
Now, the president's style of management has been questioned by his critics, terming the extensive working tours as a plot to re-strategize for 2027 and reassure his restless base.
It is an insecurity that comes from the fact that William Ruto has built nothing. And I dare anyone to show me a project of the national government that was begun by this administration and completed by this administration for him to go and launch. This is a survival mechanism, going around launching projects by former regimes, like the housing projects that he comes to launch here in Nairobi. 90% of those projects were begun by President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna, who is also Azimio's deputy minority whip in the Senate, argues the president has lost it, even as Kenya Kwanza's Nyali MP and a commissioner in the Parliamentary Service Commission, Mohammed Ali, maintains the president is on the right track as planned.
Now, as a politician, when you have nothing to show in terms of your output as an elected leader, then it becomes very fashionable to express and explain yourself on those rooftops that you're talking about, because he wants the validation of the people that somehow he is still popular. He wants to show the people that he's still popular, to demonstrate that people still like him or support him.
Whatever the president is doing is to make sure that he's on the ground, to make sure that he hears from the people, but not from the brokers in between. Because one of the problems that we have in this country is listening to people's advice rather than listening to the voters' advice.
When he moves like in our constituencies, he is able to ascertain the job which is being undertaken within these constituencies. For example, when he was in my constituency, he noticed that he had given a promise of 500 million, which was supposed to be given to a level 5 hospital in my constituency. But these funds were not yet released to that hospital. But he was informed that there is fund in that hospital. So meaning that when he is on the field, he is able to detect many things which are not working and make them work.
President Ruto's field management style has also not settled well with governors.
You will see William Ruto launching things that are essentially county government projects. If you see William Ruto at a market, know that markets are the responsibility of county governments. If you see him launching waterworks, that is the responsibility of county government.
Everything which has been handed.
Professor Gitile Naituli, who is a professor of management and leadership, argues that the president's style of management by walking is counterproductive.
The idea of walking around is the ability to sit with the people on the ground who have experience of what they do. So you talk to them, you listen to them first, and then you are able to feed them back your ideas. And then from there, you have an improved capacity to make a decision. So you can't say the president is now doing management by walking around because he is on the top of the car. You know, there is a dictum in governance which demands that chief executive officers, CEOs, they spend 20% of their time where they get 80% results. Okay? So now, being on the road permanently, you flip that rule.
The president is a hands-on man. If you don't know about him, I'll tell you. He doesn't believe in hearsays. He is a person who wants to be there to find out whether it is true. He is very knowledgeable, by the way. You cannot lie to him. He checks on everything.
Any day the president leaves Nairobi to go anywhere, 100 to 200 million is down the drain. That's the money that would buy medicine in dispensaries. That's the money that probably would employ a doctor in a place where there is no doctor.
How do you expect the president to go there? You expect him to walk? You expect him not to drive? You expect him not to go and ask people if it is agriculture issue? The Minister of Agriculture must be there. The PS must be there. If there is any sensitive question that is going to be asked, they need to answer in front of the president to tell them what is going on. And again, there are these pictures that people don't see. When the president goes to some areas, the economy of that area improves.
Some experts argue the president should spend much of his time in the office where he can receive reports from experts in different areas of the economy, evaluate and make queries, since in the office, the president has the office apparatus to support his mandate.
The reason why you are chief of staff or you are president, chief advisor, is for you to evaluate requests that come to the president and then be able to reject some and accept some. So it's like they don't allow the president even to rest. So the fellow is just moving all over, and one day he may collapse. They need to allow him time to reflect, to feel, to relax, so that you can get clear thoughts. But if you are permanently in the road, you can't think straight. It becomes even dangerous for the country, actually.
So when you see him gallivanting across the country, it is a survival mechanism. He knows that his popularity has shot down. And he thinks that by going around the country showing that there are still crowds following him on car rooftops, that it will validate his presidency.
This is the most hardworking president that we have ever seen in this country in terms of waking up and sleeping. By the time we wake up and go to the office, he is done with a lot of things.
Even as President Ruto continues with his countrywide tours, at the end of the day, the situation of the people is determined by their ability to feed their families and meet their basic needs, as outlined in his campaign pledges. Vincent Odur, NTV, Nairobi.